My name is Ruth Duignan and I am a fashion designer.
I grew up in a small village called Drumsna in County Leitrim on the banks of the River Shannon. I went to school in a small primary school in Leitrim and went to secondary school in Carrick-on-Shannon. I have always been making things. I studied art, home economics, French and geography. I'd say my Debs dress was redesigned 1,500 times before it actually came to my Debs. So always an interest in fashion textiles.
The project we're working on at the moment is the movement project, and this will just be kind of almost using words as a catalyst for idea generation. So here with some initial kind of mark making exercises, what I've done is I have grated up some wax crayons and scattered them on some paper and melted them into it, and then also cut up some pieces of tape and just kind of like almost thrown them where they land. Again, working with some images like scattering small pieces of paper, starting to place pieces of paper, moving in steps, going down. So design is an iterative process. It's not about knowing exactly what's going to happen for the whole project. I look at this, I think to myself, this colour showed up better with the larger one. I look at this one, even though it has a kind of more raised surface to it, because it's quite small, I'm finding it very hard to get the detail in. So something that's a little bit larger makes it easier for me to get the detail.
I did my Leaving Cert when I was 17, so I did a PLC course where I put together my portfolio during that year, which was really, really fantastic. My parents are both teachers and their philosophy is that if you love something, that's what you should do. So they've always been like, do what you're interested in, because that's the only thing that you're going to be able to like keep up the momentum in, because you know times will be tough. Where do you want to be during the good times and the bad times? And if you love what you do, if you're really passionate about it and interested in it, you'll find your way. My graduate collection won the AIB Business Development Award, so that gave me financial support and access to a mentoring panel of experts, so finance expert, business expert and a design expert, to help me start my own label, which I did. In 2009, considering Ireland was going through a deep recession, it wasn't the best time to start a business. However, there was a lot of opportunities. There was massive mistakes and there was small victories, and creatively I learned a lot. I kind of saw like the relevance of good business training and good strategy and how that really helps to build a brand. So I decided to do a master's in business management at University of Limerick. My graduate thesis was based on branding and marketing of culture and ethnicity. So looking at how we kind of use our culture and our ethnicity to actually promote and brand our work.
When I'm moving forward with my next idea, I'm going to take the learning from what went right and what went wrong with the last idea. When you are starting the design process, you should be casting a really, 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 really wide net, not judging your ideas before you've actually started to develop them, only starting to think about them afterwards. There are swatches in here that I hate, that did not work out. So when I was looking at fringing, these were some of my initial investigations, which I thought were going to be really lovely. They're not lovely, they're horrible. One of the ones that I did actually really like was when I started playing with these vinyls. When I added the electrical tape here and slashed it, it actually all started to curl. So obviously the gold isn't curling, but the electrical tape is curling. So again, it's kind of interesting to note that if I wanted to contract, I'll put tape on it. If I want it to stay flat, I'll put foil on it. So with every kind of process that you use, you're learning something else about the materials. It's impossible to know how two different fabrics are going to react unless you have experience with that or unless you try it. They're the only two ways of actually knowing what's going to happen if you put one material on top of another. Will this tape actually adhere to this fabric? What sort of issues? Which tape adheres best to the fabric? Again, taking that learning, this tape doesn't actually adhere very well to this type of fabric, whereas the electrical tape does adhere quite well to it. I'm particularly interested in embroidery. This is made from a polyester fabric. On the back there is an embroidered detail, so this is a hand embroidered crewel work design incorporating fringing and just kind of standard crewel work embroidery, which is a form of embroidery from Great Britain. And it is, what I like about crewel work is you can get a very big motif done in a very, very short space of time. So there's probably only around maybe 4 hours of embroidery here, and it's covered quite a large motif.
I've won a Future Makers Award, and my Future Makers Award was a studio supporting my work, which is a women's wear fashion collection using Studio Donegal hand-woven tweeds and my own handmade lace pieces. Some of the traditional fabrics that are produced here, I'm looking to kind of integrate them into a contemporary Irish wardrobe and to see what makes it more wearable, looking at how you can streamline the manufacturing so that you can actually produce the garments here in Ireland and they're suitable for an Irish retail market.
This is made with a tweed from Hanley's in Tipperary. Handy tweed miniskirt. I made it myself, so of course I put in massive pockets because pockets are never big enough in women's clothing. So to start to develop how I'm going to start working with my fringing and what it how it's going to work for me within the wider context of making clothes, I'm very interested in sustainability, and so this is where you'll make your garments in a way that you don't actually cut away or waste any fabric. Approximately 13 to 15% of all textiles is going to landfill because when they cut out the garments they have to send the scraps to landfill. How do we start to use all the pieces of fabric that we have left over? So say for example this fabric here is a hand-woven boucle from Studio Donegal, and it is, I had a small panel of it left. Now it's hand-woven cloth, so it's very high quality. It costs a lot of money for me to buy, so I wasn't actually going to throw out this small panel, but I didn't have enough of it to make anything of real substance. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to patch it in. So looking at ways to work with all of the cloth is something that I'm very, very, very interested in because it obviously has massive implications with regard to sustainability. Nothing has been cut off this fabric, so this fabric is half the width of a standard piece of calico. All the kind of shaping and style lines are actually just been put in either through folds or through a series of cuts. So nothing, this pattern when it's finished, there'll be no waste in the pattern whatsoever. So if we want to use the full width of our fabric, I'm going to create a pleat sample here that you can see on the stand. To move it in, I'm going to have to move my dart from under my arm to our shoulder seam. And I'm doing that by simply cutting out my piece and pivoting that section of the pattern until I have my dart moved. I suppose translucency is a significant theme in my work, so I'm also very, very interested in lace making. So this is a dress from a previous collection that I held on to because I wanted to wear it myself, and doing some very simple applique and fringing on the dress. Very, very comfortable to wear and working kind of with the natural qualities of the cotton organdy.
I would highly recommend that you just follow your passion, do something you love, and remember that, you know, the thing that you love will continue to evolve with you as you evolve.